I'd like to call the Village of Riverside Board of Trustees regular meeting for Thursday, August 17, 2023 to order. If we can all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing on our agenda tonight is the President's report, and I have the distinct
Joe, we got to call roll.
I'm sorry?
We got to call roll.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please call the roll.
President Ballerini?
Here.
Trustee Gallegos? Here. Trustee Mateo? Here. Trustee Evans? Here. Trustee Pollock?
Here.
Trustee Marshazga?
Here.
Manager Francis?
Here.
Attorney Pickrell? Here. Also present, Clerk Soul.
Thank you. First on the agenda tonight is the President's report, and I have the distinct honor of introducing State Representative Elizabeth Hernandez, the Deputy Majority Leader in Springfield, one of the most powerful women in Springfield, and we appreciate you coming and taking the time to visit us tonight.
Well, I want to thank you very, very much for the invitation. I've been in office, I'm in my 9th term, and been through 2 redistricting efforts, and I have to say the first, when I went into office, the district was only Cicero and Berwyn. And so in the next round, when they did the redistricting, I went into the city and far west as Brookfield, which included Riverside. This last redistricting has even included further of a Riverside, and I'm out of the city, so I'm strictly now suburban again. So a lot of changes. Actually, this is my first time here, so I really thank you for the invitation, and I'm just simply going to give you a bit of an update of what we accomplished this past spring in Springfield. And so I think I got it's some good news. So I want to start by saying good evening, and thank you for allowing me to be here to share some of the great work we've been doing in Springfield to make sure Riverside is heard, invested in, and thrive. In Springfield, we do a lot in the day-to-day operations of our state government to make sure we keep our promise to advocates, to be advocates and fighters for everyone. On 3 main efforts, we have made great progress for our state and its diverse communities: balanced budgets that invest in people, comprehensive health care services that meet the needs of every Illinoisan, education that prepares our children for the next generation, and effective public safety policy that creates stronger communities. On the budgetary front, our hard work has paid off. We've gone above and beyond our required pension payments to reduce liabilities, paid down all short and medium-term debt, and given ourselves the latitude to reinvest in programs that work directly to improve people's lives. Our budget makes critical investments in the local government distributive fund, also known as the LGDF, and in classroom education to give local governments the tools to control property taxes. This is one area I think is important to municipalities, that this last session we were able to increase that percentage again based from last year. So we did it last year and we did it again this year. Our budget makes critical investments in the local government fund. Oh, I said that already. As the national assault on people's health care rights continues virtually unabated, it was important that we took a stand in Illinois. We helped pass a number of bills, such as an expansion of the community care program to keep seniors in their homes and work within communities to support their senior population. Thousands of Illinoisans face outrageous prices for life-saving prescriptions, meaning they have to choose between their mortgage, electricity, or even their heart medication. It is fundamentally cruel, and so we reined in that kind of price gouging. In a similar way, we capped the price of the insulin, making sure those with diabetes can truly afford something that allows them to continue their daily lives. Many young families have fortunately found themselves facing exorbitant prices for childcare, shelling out thousands of dollars because they can't afford for one parent to stay home. As any parent would tell you, early childhood development is critical to long-term development. So we invested nearly $300 million into the early childhood initiatives. $45 million is going to fill teacher vacancies, and we made sure parents had the option of full-day kindergarten. Many of our children have grand dreams for their future. To keep Illinois a state that sparks and promotes these big dreams, we passed the iGrow initiative, which will help countless students in computer science, engineering, math, and science programs, and afford college tuition and make Illinois the tech capital of the country. With rising crime across the state, we had to take a long, hard look at how we went about protecting our diverse communities. No longer could we try the same tired tactics and expect new results. We had to work smarter, not harder. We passed reforms to keep our communities safer by keeping dangerous criminals in jail based on a public safety assessment. Part of fighting crime is creating trust between law enforcement and the communities they protect and serve. We invested $30 million to equip every officer with body and car cameras to build that trust, and supported tens of millions in new funding to hire more qualified state police officers. On domestic violence, we knew we needed to do more to protect survivors from their abusers, and I am working to enhance protection orders that make sure abusers turn in their guns. As we saw in Highland Park, every community faces the threat of gun violence and mass shooting events. I worked with Representative Morgan, countless advocates, and many of the grieving families of victims of mass shooting to pass an assault weapons ban. That's pretty much it. So I want to thank you for allowing me to highlight some of the accomplishments in our spring session in Springfield, and I look forward to continue working with you to make our communities thrive and better. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. We appreciate you taking the time tonight. Anyone have any questions for Representative Hernandez? Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yes.
See you all.
Second thing on my agenda tonight is the recognition of recent police department personnel. I would like to recognize the officers and new supervisors that participated in the swearing-in ceremony occurring at the Village Hall meeting. So I'd like to congratulate new officers, Officer Ryan Spear, Officer Genevieve Gauthier, Officer Brian Simitel, Officer John Perez Saldana, Officer Kevin Delgado, and we wish Kevin McMahon luck in the police academy, and we will soon be welcoming him as a new officer. Promotions: John Michael Panic to Sergeant, James Lazansky to Commander, and Leo Coder to Deputy Chief. And finally, congratulations to retired Police Chief Frank Lara. We appreciate your service of over 37 years to the Village of Riverside. So thank you all. Next on the agenda is Manager's Report.
Thank you. I just have a couple of quick items to report back to the board, but also for residents. Over at 43 Quincy, we have installed the new awning and windows, and it looks fabulous. And so the final finishing touch will be the signage, and we're working on that. And so I think it gives a very different look to the building, very polished. And I know staff is really happy with the sunshine that's able to come through. And so it's really been the highlight of the week. And then additionally, I also wanted to thank our fabulous Parks and Rec department, who has activities planned not only for this week, but also next week as well. At the end of the week, we have concert in the park on the 18th. We have Corey's Triathlon this weekend. And then we also have movie in the park next Friday. So thank you, Parks and Rec.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is residents' comments. Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on non-agenda items? Ms. Clark.
Good evening. I'm Mary Rob Clark with the Riverside Township Lions Club, and I'm here to talk about the Person of the Year dinner, a tradition since 1950. This year it's honoring Matt Buckley. It's Wednesday, September 20th at the Golf Club, 6 o'clock cocktails, 7 o'clock dinner. Tickets are $65, and tickets are available at the library, the Riverside Bank, and Aunt Diana's. And I am also supposed to remind you it's cocktail attire.
Thank you. Thank you,
Is
Mary
there any
Rob.
questions?
Any questions from Ms. Clark? No. Thank you, Mary Rob, and thank you for your service as trustee to the township, too. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Clerk Sol?
Approve voucher list of bills August 17th, 2023. Ratify Village Board of Trustees regular meeting minutes July 20th, 2023. Approve Village Board of Trustees regular meeting minutes August 3rd, 2023. Approve Village Board of Trustees executive session meeting minutes August 3rd, 2023. Review and file Preservation Commission meeting minutes April 13th and June 8th, 2023. Review and file Landscape Advisory Commission meeting minutes July 11th, 2023. Review and file Public Works Department July monthly report. Review and file Finance May and June monthly reports. A resolution of the Village of Riverside, Illinois, waiving competitive bidding and authorizing the village manager to execute a sales agreement with Monroe Truck Equipment for a total amount not to exceed $53,055 to install the body package on the new Public Works utility dump truck chassis. A resolution authorizing the village manager to approve a change order for the not-to-exceed amount of $6,000 to Arthur P. O'Hara for the Village Hall office renovations, and a resolution approving the amended employment agreement, Village Manager Jessica Francis.
Thank you, Ethan. Do anyone in the public or at this table need any of these items to be removed? Hearing none, if I can have a motion and a second?
Motion made.
Motion by trustee Gallego, second.
Second.
Second by trustee Marsaska. Any further comments? Hearing none, Ethan?
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Mateo.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Pollock. Trustee Marshaska.
Motion carries. We move on to department, board, and commission reports. First on our agenda tonight is the demonstration of the vehicle sticker pet tag online payment options with Director John.
Good evening. I wanted to highlight some of the new features for vehicle sticker renewals this year. First, I wanted to reiterate that annual vehicle stickers and pet license renewals provide vital revenue for the village, important data, and evidence of regulatory compliance. Vehicle stickers and pet license renewals have been mailed to your home. Most residents received them last Monday, and your payment options include online, via the mail. However, please do not use your utility bill envelope, as that will take it to the lockbox, the silver drop box in front of Township Hall, and in person. All vehicle stickers and pet tags will be mailed to your home. We made some important changes this year with upgrades to our BS&A financial software, including the online platform, which has allowed the renewals to integrate automatically to the village's financial software. This is a huge efficiency for finance department staff in getting these entered and mailed out to residents quicker. The due date was changed to September 30th from June 30th, and a 50% economic hardship discount has been added for qualifying seniors. Wanted to briefly go over the senior economic hardship discount. To apply for this, you need to provide certification from the Illinois Department of Aging's Benefit Access Program, which also gets a discount on your state license plate sticker, as well as a copy of your vehicle registration. It's important that the names on both of those match to be eligible for the discount. I wanted to also make a reminder about the discount for disabled veterans and former POWs. Disabled veterans and former POWs can have their vehicle sticker fee waived. However, you still need to turn in that renewal form, make sure there's no changes to it, and a sticker will be mailed to your house. It is valid for one vehicle per veteran. There is an application online on the village's website, so that's needed, a copy of the vehicle registration, and documentation from Veterans Affairs showing the disability percentage. Wanted to point out a couple key dates. As I mentioned before, most people received their renewal forms on Monday, August 14th. They will be due Saturday, September 30th, and we will be sending out email reminders September 30th of the deadline on Friday the 15th, Monday the 25th, and again on the 30th. Wanted to quickly walk through, we've got a couple different ways to pay online. If there are no changes on your form, you go to the village's website, hover over the search bar and the How Do I Pay for vehicle stickers, and it takes you to a page that really takes you through the steps. If there's no changes, you can click the link next to number 1 for no changes. On this page, there's a box in the middle for invoice number, which is found on your renewal application. So enter that invoice number, click search. You'll see your invoice show up here with a checkbox. So you click the checkbox to pay this invoice, and then the bottom right box to make payment. This will take you then to Invoice Cloud, where you can select your method of paying, and it will be mailed to your house afterwards within about 3 to 5 business days. The next option, if there are any changes, if you've received a new vehicle or added an additional vehicle to your fleet, you may select option number 2, which will take you to the ePay software. So this is the page it'll take you to if there are any changes or additions. You have to fill out your name, invoice number, the old vehicle information, and then the new vehicle information. And then it'll take you to payments for that. Wanted to remind everyone, if you do not pay by September 30th, there will be $10 a month late fees added. And after the 6th round of late fees, there is also a $50 police citation. 1 week after all vehicle stickers have been mailed, following the renewal period, the police department will start enforcement. After a citation is issued, it can only be relieved through the adjudication process. Is there any questions about the vehicle sticker renewal process? Okay.
Thank you. One other thing, there's been some chatter about water meters. Can you give us an update on that, please?
Absolutely. So far, the Public Works Department has installed over 55% of new meters throughout town. Just a reminder, when preparing for your install, please make sure your meter is accessible by Public Works staff, that there is a clear path to it and no obstructions in front of the water meter. Wanted to briefly talk about some of the benefits of the new software. The Public Works Department monitors the consumption on a daily basis and makes courtesy calls when they notice what may appear to be a major leak or a burst pipe. In our previous system, this wouldn't be detected for up to 2 months afterwards when reading the meters. So that getting this information on an hourly basis is a huge benefit, and I know the Public Works Department is already contacted for some big leaks. Wanted to go over some of the frequently asked questions that we get. First one is, why is there a past due balance on my new meter invoice? The first invoice that you get for your new meter will show a past due invoice. This is for the usage on your previous meter from the last read to the meter exchange date. There are no late fees or penalties associated with that. Next question we receive often is, when I go online to pay, there is no bill. When you get a new meter, your account number changes. It increases 1 digit at the end. So when you sign into Invoice Cloud to pay your bill, you need to link the new account. There's just a quick button on there that says search for new account, same way you set it up in the first place. If there's any difficulties, please contact Village Hall. We've been getting a lot of concerns that the bill has increased. The usage numbers used to be either single or 2 digits. That's because it was expressed in 100 cubic feet units. Now it is expressed in gallons. So a lot of people saw, I used to have 4 units of water, and now it looks like they used 2,000 units. That's because of the change of the unit measurement. My bill has increased for the dollar amount. First, effective June 1st, there was a rate increase. So the current bills that are out there had a blended rate because they spanned both May and June usage. So there was that rate increase. Also, many residents have selected the payment plan for the new meters. So there is that meter cost on the bill as well. Others are still seeing high bills. One of the features of the new meters is they are capturing all water usage. This was one of the main reasons for the meter replacement, is as meters age, they sometimes don't capture the low flow, and they are capturing that now. So there may be a slight uptick of usage. It is real usage, it just wasn't captured on your old meter. We're getting a lot of calls on how did I use so much water? If you're concerned about this, please call the Village Hall. We can print out hour-by-hour reports from you to help pinpoint when your water's being used. These past couple months have been dry months, and I know there has been a lot of watering going on in those months. Another popular question is, why didn't my auto pay transfer? On the renewal forms that the Public Works staff takes to your home when replacing the meter, there is a line to fill out that says, circle if you want to transfer auto pay. If this is circled yes, we will automatically transfer it. If it is circled no or left blank, we will not transfer the auto pay information. Another question is, what if I refuse to have my meter changed? During the past meter exchange, all residents were contacted at minimum 2 times to schedule an appointment. And if after we're done with all the meter replacements and are unable to get a hold of residents, there was an additional fee assessed. Something like this will come back to the board as we start to wrap up the process if needed. This is due to the fact that all meters are now being read through an AMI system at the Public Works Tower. And if you do not change your meter, that would require Public Works to manually go out and read your meter. Those are the majority of the questions and feedback I've seen lately. If there's any other questions, I'm happy to address them.
Any questions from Ms. Johnson? I think it's one thing that you said that was very important is people that say that I haven't used this much water or my bill is call the village. They can tell you exactly when you're using your water. And if you're going through water at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, you know there's a leak somewhere because most people aren't up at that time. So I think that's very, very important to call the village. The village is there to help you. So please. Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
Move on to pending business. First thing is an ordinance amending the village code of the Village of Riverside relative to structures in the public right-of-way. Director Tab.
Good evening, everyone. So I have 2 of these. The first one relates to a topic that was discussed way back in 2016, June 16, 2016 board meeting, and it pertains to structures in the public right-of-way. I want to thank Trustee Pollack for taking a look at this revision. I believe he was the only one present at the meeting back then, so thank you very much. I just wanted to highlight a couple of the items that did see a change on it. So just to clarify, the hardscape discussion that occurred back in 2016 was for permanently affixed existing structures that are in the village right-of-way. So the main 3 points that were changed are in Title 4, Chapter 12-1, structures, title structures defined. It adds language to clarify the objects not permanently affixed to the ground, such as benches, walkways, planted pots, and stepping stones, will be subject to the hardscape permit process found in Title 8, Chapter 13-1, which is in essence the typical hardscape permitting process we go through. LAC takes a look, preservation, then comes to the board. So it would go through that and not subject to the process detailed in Title IV, Chapter 12-1, which are for those objects that have been permanently affixed or existing to the ground, whether the duration is known or not. Okay, so that was the first change. The second would be located in Title IV, Chapter 12-2 for structures that are to be removed. It eliminates language that requires permanently affixed objects to be removed solely based on the sale of the property or the deterioration of the structure, and instead bases removal on either the proof that the object was installed prior to 1972 or has obtained a hardscape permit pursuant to that Title 8, Chapter 13-1. The last change to the ordinance was located in Title IV, Chapter 12-3, entitled Structures Allowed to Remain, and this clarifies language stating that if the village believes a permanently fixed structure was built after 1972, that the burden of proof will be on the village, and in instances where the date of construction cannot be determined as occurring before or after 1972, then the structure will be allowed to remain until the property is sold or the owner applies for and receives a hardscape permit pursuant to that Title 8, Chapter 13-1 within 3 months of notification by the village. So those are the three main changes. If I've missed something, Trustee Pollock, feel free, but I think that covers the gist of the discussion that was had 7 years ago.
Any questions for Dan? I have a couple. Why is it the village, burden of proof on the village rather than the homeowner?
That was the decision that they made 7 years ago, that it would be on the village as opposed to the homeowner.
So, if I recall correctly, this came out of someone had put a monument sign on village right-of-way. And so as part of that discussion, it was, well, do we make them remove it? And then the date of when we received our national landmark designation was that point in time. And so given that we have a file from when that was done, that was kind of the essence of why it was the burden of proof was on the village of whether or not it was done at that point in time.
Okay.
And so we would be able to check based on plats of surveys and things of that sort, unless the house hadn't turned over in a very long period of time.
Okay. The other question I have is the owner of private property, this hasn't changed, but some clarity. Private property adjacent to public way agrees to have a general liability insurance on behalf of the village in the amount of $1 million. How many of those policies are out there?
Unknown.
Do we have a list of items that are on village right-of-way that would fall under this? I mean, I can think of the Coonley Estate Planters is one thing I can think of. Do they supply us with that? And if they do not, is there shouldn't there be a mechanism that we have that keeps all these things in tally? Maybe it's a job that we put to the commissions, to Historical Commission, to do some research on some of these projects, and the Preservation Commission to look at them, make sure they fall within the burden of proof, and then.
So part of it would be staff reviewing it. So anytime a property turns over, getting a compliance, and so basically it's a zoning review. And so as part of that, we would flag the different properties as something is noted in the right-of-way.
So we have a list of those things.
It's ongoing.
Okay, all right. That's all I know. That's all I ask. Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, if I can have a motion and a second. Motion by Trustee Mateo, second? Second by Trustee Evans. Any further questions? Comments? Hearing none, Ethan?
Trustee Gallegos. Aye. Trustee Mateo. Aye. Trustee Evans. Aye. Trustee Pollock. Aye. Trustee Marshowska.
Motion carries. Second thing on the agenda is an ordinance amending the village code of the Village of Riverside, Illinois, relative to sidewalk and driveway construction.
So this change to the ordinance we brought about because of throughout the village, we require exposed aggregate sidewalk throughout town. So there have been instances where contractors will reference the ordinance, and it still had the brushed concrete as an option for installation within public right-of-way, which has since gone by the wayside. So we just changed language clarifying that all language referring to the Portland cement concrete with broom finish has been removed. When referring to the sidewalk located in the public right-of-way, only concrete consisting of a pea gravel mix with an exposed aggregate finish is allowed when constructing sidewalks and/or carriage walks in the public right-of-way. In addition to that, just some clarification or updates that the engineer suggested was for concrete driveways that they should be at least 6 inches thick for residential and 7 inches thick if serving commercial or industrial property. So those are the changes that are seen throughout the ordinance.
Okay, thank you, Director Tapp. Any questions? Okay, hearing none, if I can have a motion in a second?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Gallego, second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Pollock. Any other comments? Hearing none, Ethan?
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Mateo. Trustee Evans. Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Trustee Marshazga.
Motion carries. Move on to new business, a resolution authorizing the village manager to execute a contract with Burke LLC for the purpose of design-build services for the Green Alley reconstruction of Lincoln and Kent alleyways in the amount not to exceed $387,030. Director Tapp.
Yes, thank you once again. The project in front of you is for the reconstruction of 2 alleys in town. We originally proposed 3, but after doing some surveying and feasibility, we pulled one of the alleys that is located on, or actually off of Selborne Road. It ended up serving only one property and didn't feel the expense of $65,000 warranted the reconstruction of that one. So we did pull that, but the 2 remaining alleys would be the Lincoln Alley, the Lincoln Avenue Alley, and that's going to consist of reconstructing the east-west alley north of Forest Avenue from Lincoln Avenue East to the north-south alley, which is a total length of 175 linear feet, and work will also include replacement of sections of adjoining concrete and asphalt drive as necessary. So, the green alley is going to be concrete ribbons with a green paver section down the middle, permeable. It's going to have an aggregate base for storage. These will be similar to the alleys parallel to Harlem Avenue off of Lindbergh. The second alley will be the Kent Road Alley, and that consists of reconstruction of approximately 540 linear feet from the north limit of the previously completed Green Alley at Kent Road and heading northeast to Harlem Avenue right-of-way. This work will also consist of replacing a section of adjacent concrete and asphalt driveways or parking areas that adjoin the new alley. And again, this will be similar to the one just south of this current installation, that the drive lanes will be concrete with the permeable paver brick ribbon down the center. That is going to begin shortly after Labor Day, probably the middle of September. Any questions pertaining to that one?
Any questions for Director Tapp? Okay, hearing none, if I can have a motion in a second?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Gallego, second. Second by Trustee Marshazga. Any further comments? Ethan?
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Mateo. Trustee Evans. Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Trustee Marshazga.
Motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution authorizing the village manager to execute a contract with Burke LLC for the purpose of providing design-led build service for utility improvements and reconstruction of Shenstone Road between North Delaplane Road and Harlem Avenue in an amount not to exceed $2.483920 million. A lot.
Yes, sir. So this is our big project for the year. This one is, it's got a lot going on, so I'm going to kind of highlight some of the scope of work. Here's what we're going to be doing. So we're replacing the existing 4-inch water main with a new 8-inch ductile iron water main. It's going to include new water services, fire hydrants, and valves. The water service replacement also includes installation of new 1-inch copper water service lines from the Buffalo box into the home of each property that does have a lead service line, and that is per the Lead Service Line Replacement Notification Act. We've spoke about that numerous times over the last year and a half, and the requirement to do so for any upcoming water main project. In addition is the removal of the existing 22-inch combined sewer and the construction of a new 36-inch combined sewer that will add additional stormwater capacity to the system between Del Plain Road and Blythe Road, as well as the upstream tributaries. This will include the reconnection of all sanitary sewer lines that serve the north homes along the north side of Shenstone Road. Continuing on, the full pavement reconstruction of Shenstone Road. It's currently a concrete road that requires a full reconstruct, which will then go to an asphalt overlay. And that is going to include new curb and gutters, as well as the replacement of many of the adjacent driveway aprons. We are also upgrading all intersection sidewalk ramps along Shenstone Road within the project limits to achieve ADA compliance, and also replacing various other sidewalks along Shenstone Road that have been identified by Public Works. And wrapped up in this project for cost purposes is the creation of 2 ADA parking spaces and constructing an ADA access route to the south end of Swamp Pond off of Short Fairbanks at the Berry Point Bridge. And then also the inclusion of miscellaneous sidewalk replacements throughout the village. We are doing, in conjunction with Shenstone Road and the various sidewalks, we're approximately 270 sidewalk squares are going to get replaced, and a bunch of those will be around Blythe School. So we try to hit those in close proximity to high traffic areas. So having gone through all that, as you note in the budget box, this is a project that is over budget. In front of you is an updated budget table that has been updated since it was included in the agenda history sheet. So I wanted to go over 2 of the main reasons that this is over budget. We kind of discussed the first one that alludes to the lead service line replacement. That was unbudgeted. The state came out and said that they are required anytime you install a water main. So that is one of the main reasons we are over budget by approximately $300,000 on that one. The second one is the upsizing of the sewer main. So going into this project, we didn't intend to upsize it, but once we started the surveying and looked at the upstream tributaries that feed into the sewer system, the section that we're replacing, not only does it drain Shenstone Road, but it drains Blythe, it drains a few homes on East Grove, it drains Leasley, Arlington, Selborne from York to Kent, portions of Lindbergh and Harlem Avenue all the way to 26th Street. So we decided that this would be the opportune time to help alleviate some of that surcharging that we have in the system by adding some more stormwater capacity, going from a 22 to a 36. We are opening the road because it's a full reconstruct, and this is the time to put in a larger sewer. Even though it was not in the original budget, we felt it warranted to include it because of all of the surrounding blocks that will be affected by the increase in the sewer diameter. So those are the 2 components that are the main reason the project is over budget. But we feel both of those, one we have to do, and the other one we feel is warranted based on the full reconstruct.
Thank you. Any questions?
Well, it's a big price tag, but I think we have to do this. It helps alleviate a lot of the flooding that we have. I mean, people complain all the time about that, so anything that we can do to help reduce that is going to be a big benefit to us. I think we have to bite this one right now. I don't want to wait on this.
So that area was, it has not been identified. We have various sections throughout town for sewer separation opportunities. This one is not necessarily a candidate because there is no easy way to get the stormwater to a river. So this was not included in one of those phases. However, it was identified in the sewer study of 2014 that there is surcharging in this area. So, in conjunction with that study, we felt it was worth it. And going through some of these reports, this area sees surcharging at as low as a 2-year storm. So we're seeing 100-year storms almost yearly. The one we just saw a couple months ago where we had 6 inches of rain, that exceeds at the time, the 100-year storm, which was just under 5 inches. I mean, I feel like we see one of those every year. So this area hopefully will benefit from the upsizing of the sewer and the additional stormwater capacity.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to confirm that we will, in this plan, there is a plan for the crosswalk. at
Shenstone, Delphine?
Shenstone and Delphine.
Sure is.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? My question, since you're having problems having people allow you into their house to change a meter, what happens if someone decides they don't want to change their service?
They have every right. They will fill out the form, the IDPH form, and it goes on file with the state. We have not experienced that on Shenstone. We have a couple of people we have not been able to get a hold of, which we continue to try, but that is, it's less than 5.
Okay.
So-
And I would assume that all the meters that are on Shenstone that are not replaced will be replaced during the new copper?
Correct.
Piping? Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none? Someone want to take a bite at this $2 million apple?
I'll say out, but I'll make the motion.
Motion by trustee Gallego, second? Second by trustee Mateo. Any other questions? Hearing none? Ethan?
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Mateo. Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Pollock. Trustee Marshowska.
Motion carries. Next on the agenda is discussion and review of building permit requirements. Assistant Village Manager Monroe.
Good evening. I'm actually excited about the recommendations proposed to you. We did an analysis, surveyed some local comparable communities about their permit requirements. There were questions asked at previous board meetings about how we can either make our permitting process more seamless, require fewer permits if applicable, or modify our requirements in some way. So we created a list of recommendations. I'll just kind of hit the high notes of what those recommendations are. I'll take any questions, and I have some nice, performance measures, if you will, a preview of what'll be in the final budget related to our inspections and permitting issuance. So the first recommendation we have upon analysis is to remove the $500 minimum project value as a threshold. This is codified, and so we would need to modify or prepare an ordinance for you to consider if you want to go and proceed with that. It doesn't have any direct impact on our building permit revenues, and very likely the people who are doing those small threshold projects are either not getting a permit at this time or would be required to get a permit based on the project type. So we'll reiterate the project types that are required to keep getting a permit. As far as windows and doors, I think this is raised a lot of questions at the board level and with our contractors. We'd like to change the code to include minor repairs like storm doors, windows, glazing. We would include those in, again, a codified alteration to our code, right? So our code provides specific items that you can repair with or without a permit, and so we'd make small changes to that. We'd remove the permit requirement to replace the same size door, so an entry door to your home or a garage door without electrical work, or even if it has a low voltage electrical, we would remove that permit requirement. People can replace one for one without a permit. We would modify the window inspection requirements. So we would do this in a way that it incorporates a tool of essentially a virtual inspection. So people can take a picture or a video of the essential functions of those windows, so stickers with a U value shown, showing the insulation before everything is covered up. And then, so we would replace essentially a final window inspection with a rough inspection. We'd do an in-progress inspection to make sure it was done correctly. Anything in a historic landmark home, any property that would still be required to go through the certificate of appropriateness for any changes made to properties with with an exterior impact would still be required to go through that process. We want to change a couple of things just with our process for mechanical equipment. So if we are replacing one-for-one furnaces and HVAC equipment or a water heater, we're looking at staff doing minor non-complex reviews to turn around the permits faster. So we would still have a permit requirement, but by the way that we would do that process, we can get them out the door faster. If there's a change in where the exterior HVAC is, it still have to go through a zoning review. So it's not for every permit, but we'll do our best to get it out the door quickly. We would reduce the review time for masonry, tuck pointing, stucco, and repair siding. So that's one where we could do that at a staff level and turn around the permit more quickly. We're looking at reducing the review time, again, for roofing or addition of a single layer of asphalt shingles. Same thing. We would also modify our roof inspection requirements. So making sure that it's an improvement, actually, in making sure that the roof replacements are installing the ice and water shield and other functional components and not just looking at the final product. We'd also review the review time for gutter and downspout replacements and reduce the review time for very small repairs for fencing. We wouldn't be sending them out. We would be looking at those ourselves for small sections of fencing. Any new fences in entirety would end up going through the standard process with zoning. I will also note just that as we're looking at these things, we're looking for incorporating some virtual inspections for very, very particular projects. There are certain things that are amenable to this type of inspection process and others that are not. We're not going to do it for a deck construction. That really needs to be an on-site inspection. Structural remodels, all of those things. But for those small things, the windows, windows or doors, sometimes a pre-pour for like a driveway or a sidewalk that we want to catch before a weekend and we don't have an inspector on site anymore, it may be an option for us if we can keep projects moving effectively and still have that oversight to make sure they're being done correctly. We choose when we use those, so it would be an option that be specifically offered by staff. And then finally, I'll just end by noting that as part of us looking at our permits, we currently issue 78%. Since February, we made a change in our inspection and plan review services and pulled out the massive outliers, so things that had applied for a permit in 2021 and just were issued this year. Typically, our permits are going out in less than 21 days, 78% of the time, less than 10 days, 50% of the time, 7 days, 43%, and anything 3 days or less, about 13%. What we're hoping to change as part of these process modifications is to increase the 13%, closer to that, 20, 30, 40%, that we're getting a lot more of our permits out in a quicker amount of time. And then the last thing I'll note is our inspections have been commented on before. I know there were challenges a couple years ago about how quickly we were able to turn those around. We can't always control how quickly people schedule inspections. Sometimes there's a purpose for them scheduling them farther out. But I'll say that 90% of them happen in less than a week, 68% in less than 3 days, 2 days, 59%, a day turnaround, about 45%, and on certain occasions, they're being scheduled maybe the night before, and we're getting to them 15% of the time. So we're really trying to get a good portion of our work done quickly and help residents, move along their projects more conveniently. So if the board is supportive of the recommendations, we'll prepare any appropriate code changes and come back to you at an upcoming meeting. Questions?
Any questions from Ms. Monroe?
Since you joined us, you've done so many projects streamlining our processes. I really appreciate that, and I'm sure the residents do as well. Some of your proposed changes note that landmarks still need the COA.
Yes.
Didn't we have a home several years ago that replaced their windows, probably one for one? So shouldn't that still require a COA?
It will. So any exterior, I'm sorry, it didn't explicitly say for each one of the types, the project types, but anything on the exterior, we will absolutely, in our system, it's always, a big flag says that this needs special attention and extra requirements for permitting.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so you will add the COA to all the different,
Yes, so anything exterior that comes in, we're still going to process our permits in the same way, but for these specific types, we can, at a staff level, take a look at them. If there's additional reviews that are needed by zoning and or other specialties, then we'll follow the normal process. But for the great majority of them, the quick turnarounds for a interior water heater or a furnace, we're going to be able to move that very quickly.
any other questions? Mr. Pollack?
First, thanks, Ashley. It's excellent work, and I think this is a significant improvement in our building procedures. Staff has already made improvements in that procedure over the last couple of years, and we're seeing the results of that. And I think this will be extremely helpful. My only question is, what type of feedback so far have we gotten from the building community? Have we gotten any feedback on these particular changes?
There isn't any feedback so far from the community about the changes. I think, ideally it's going to make their work easier. It's common practice in different communities that do inspections a little bit differently. I think having the opportunity for contractors to install windows, and while they have things open, show us some pictures of what's happening, will make both the residents assured that they're getting what they paid for and that the work will hold up, but also that it saves them from going back into the building. For some window inspections we need to return because you can't see it from the outside, and so you have to inconvenience someone by going back and scheduling a reinspection or the inspection to go do that, and this would eliminate that option for both the contractor and the resident. In some cases too, you don't need to necessarily see a plumber on site if they've already provided all the documentation and we've been assured that the work's been done properly. There's opportunities for them to shed some of those extra hours when they're not doing new paid work. So I'm hopeful that it's a positive change, and if it's been mentioned, even some of these suggestions have been given to me by the building community.
Yeah. If I could follow up on that. There's no question that, generally speaking, the building community will like this because it helps everyone on all sides of the equation. I guess I just would ask that maybe once a final ordinance is drafted, is that if there's a handful of local builders who do a lot of work in the village, run it by them before it comes back to the board. I'm sure they'll like it, but they may have even more suggestions that could improve the process. And it's always good to include the users when we're doing things like this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Just one other item that I would recommend it as we move forward on this is that for the virtual inspections that we make sure that there's a release signed in case obviously it's a virtual thing and we're getting pictures, we're believing what they're installing, but if for some reason, it probably should be also signed by the resident, not just the contractor, to protect the village's interests, but also to make the resident aware, do you want a virtual inspection, or would you prefer that the village inspector actually come to your home and inspect?
Yeah.
I have one question. When we bill somebody, and we'll use Windows, it's based on, not the job, it's based on the cost.
Correct.
Okay. We demand more from our historic homes because they are historic, so they have to, if the roof is tile, they have to redo it in tile. They can't flip over to asphalt, and which obviously is a much higher price tag. I've heard from people that have historic homes that say that they're being penalized because their roof costs 3 times more than my roof would cost, that there shouldn't be a percentage, but rather a roof permit or a window permit. I don't know how that works, but I don't know if you can do sections, but I think it's something, maybe if you would, talk to preservation or even Trustee Marshaga, since she has a historic home, she might have some input on this. But I think it's important that we want to make sure that the people that have the historic homes continue to maintain them to that degree without the penalize of the percentage. So it's just a thought.
Yeah, if there's an interest from the board in assessing how we price or our permits, then we could do that assessment. We didn't do it in this period of time. It will be significant, to tackle the different types of assessment or analysis. But for now, the changes that are being proposed shouldn't affect revenues too much, but we can certainly do that type of analysis.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for the Ed Hannon grid book. It's always, it always helps with this. Thank you very much.
All right. I think I have guidance to move forward, son. I'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. The next is Director John's discussion of the Village of Riverside Capital Improvement Plan. You all received a bag of popcorn. I personally would have went for something a little harder than that, but go ahead.
Good evening. Presented before you tonight is the village's 10-year capital improvement plan spanning years 2024 through 2033. This is the first step in our annual budget process, which will continue with the financial forecast, budget detail presentations, and final budget adoption and tax levy ordinances throughout the end of the year. I would like this to be an interactive discussion with the board to receive guidance on any future capital projects. As just a reminder, any of these projects will come back to the board several more times, as any item over $25,000 requires additional board approval. Each department has submitted project requests to be included in this plan, which were prioritized and adjusted by the village manager. This plan presented before you includes $6,740,000 for fiscal year 2024. And to begin tonight's discussion, I'd like to know if there's any feedback on items included in the plan, or if there's any items that you'd like additional information before I go through my questions.
Do you mean in here?
Yes.
I have, just have some.
One other, sorry, before, I put together before you an updated plan based on the updated Shenstone numbers presented earlier in tonight's meeting.
So I just wanted to know why were we unable to get the bucket truck this year? I remember discussing it last year, and I see we had it budgeted for this year.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to receive it until spring of '24. Like everything else, it's delayed.
It's ordered.
It's been ordered for a year now. Yeah, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a few more.
There were also delays in receiving the fire truck and the ambulance. Both of those were pushed back till 2024 as well.
Patriots Park sidewalk removal. I know that's in the memo. Can I ask about it now? Mm-hmm. So is it the sidewalk edge that sort of leaves outside the park to the east? is that the sidewalk? I don't know where the sidewalk in the back of the park is. Is that along 26?
Correct. If, it's going to be the northeast portion of the park as you face it. It's going to be on the right-hand side. It connects basically the driveway that comes off of Parkway to 26th Street and Harlem there. It's in really bad shape, and it's not heavily used, and it's in need of replacement. So the $15,000 that is budgeted for removal to replace it would be at least 2 times that cost.
I'm just trying to get, I don't think I know where it is. Is it the one that's just past the house?
Yeah.
The
Yes.
houses and
It
just
is.
sort of like
Goes
a
over
tunnel?
goes over the tracks.
Ends in the grass?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
It's that one.
thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did we get the train station electrical improvements completed?
So-
Or why didn't we get those completed?
That one is on here is actually a discussion we were going to talk about tonight. Having met with a couple electricians, the construction of the train station does not allow piping to go up through the walls because it's masonry. So there's one of 2 ways that it's been suggested to me we should accomplish this if this is something we're interested in doing. So the desire is to have outlets inside the train station for events. There's 1 of 2 ways we can do that. One is go through the wall out of the crawl space, up with conduit and back into the train station. So you're gonna have conduit on the outside of the train station exposed. Or you come up through the floor, through the crawl space, and have conduit on the face of the interior wall with an exposed junction or outlet box, which is gonna be come off the wall probably 2.5 inches. We cannot inlay outlet boxes in the wall and hide the conduit due to the construction of the train station.
Was the project to make like electricity more accessible?
There's
the project for?
limited outlets in there. So when there's
Yeah.
events in there, whether it's a rental or an event with a holiday stroll, people
So more
are
outlets?
looking for more outlets.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
But the way to accomplish that is not standard and nor straightforward. And the discussion, we should have is, do we want exposed conduit on either the interior or the exterior of the building? Because it will definitely it'll be noticeable. So I don't know if that warrants a couple of outlets.
And if it's on the exterior of the building, that will warrant a certificate of appropriateness through preservation. So they'll have to review it and say yes or no, or make recommendations to reconfigure.
Right.
That's item number 7, so we'll chew on that a little bit
Okay.
as we get moving through. Any other questions? 7. Okay. Ms. Johns?
Okay. The first item that I wanted to discuss was the village conducted a facility needs assessment in 2018 to address the needs of public safety and the aging condition of current facilities. To address these needs, the village has recommended issuing $2.1 million of limited tax debt, and included in this budget is a $600,000 to start design and improvements at the youth center. We wanted the board to discuss the vision for the youth center property and how this can be used for our future staffing needs. Is this the direction that you want staff to begin approaching?
This started a couple of years ago when we decided that tearing down the building was costly, so why can't we try to rehab it or facilitate it? Have we gotten any, I thought Williams was looking at this,
So we haven't engaged them yet. They would have to provide a revised proposal to do that, but actually, interesting story. I've been working with Trustee Marshazga and Chairperson Pipel, and they are teaching a class, not Chairperson Pipel or Trustee Marshazga. Chairperson Pipel is the conduit at the school in which he teaches. they have offered to kind of come up with some renderings of what it could be at the youth center, whether repurposing the existing structure or demoing and building new. And so if we're able to get at least that and get kind of an idea of what the board is looking for that site, that will help kind of draw down some of our costs, because every time an architect does a rendering, it costs money. And so actually today, I've provided them all the data that we compiled as part of our last study, all the facility, various related things, and so the semester begins in very short order. And so basically I would coordinate with their students and provide any feedback in addition to Director Buckley. But so we can kind of tackle that in tandem with getting a proposal from Williams and saying, based on whatever feedback we get and based on these other reports, coming up with a structure and a phased process to tackle the public safety facility that would also incorporate, I would assume, a public meeting space that would be available for board meetings, that would be available for rentals, and then also make sure that there is space allocated for Riverside TV, because we've tackled a number of our different facility issues that were outlined back in 2017 and 2018 as part of those different reviews. So for example, purchasing 43 Quincy to get additional space for programming and staffing. We tackled, without having to actually build anything, which was great, the situation for finance, administration, and community development, kind of utilizing furniture to kind of reconfigure our space and maximize the spaces. And so really it's police, fire, Riverside TV, and some other smaller pieces that are still remaining from that particular facility study.
So I think that what you're looking for is kind of what our idea is for the youth center, what we want it to be, what we're thinking it should be.
And that you want to embark on issuing debt later this fall for the purpose of facility improvements.
First of all, with debt, is this government debt, is this the proper time to be issuing government?
So let me explain. So what we have is, it's called limited tax debt. And so over the years, we have been issuing it to pay for the public works facility. That is rolling off. We also issued our limited tax debt to pay for Selborne reconstruction a few years ago, and that is also beginning to roll off. And so this isn't new debt, so explaining it that way. So by issuing it, it doesn't mean it's going to make property bills jump up. But if you wait a period of time and then decide, oh, now we do want to issue it, now all of a sudden residents are going to see their property tax bill go down and then come back up. And so to keep it consistent, it would be my recommendation that we do look to do that, because these major improvements, the cost is not going to decrease. It is only going to increase. And if we can work with a contractor and the architect to phase these different pieces, that would be most effective for the Village of Riverside, because how the Public Works facility was financed over 20 years ago now was they issued what's called alternative debt, and then they also issued limited tax debt to pay for that debt. So the village was essentially paying double issuance costs so we're not recommending that. But based on the cycle and based on what the village is allowed, you can approximately issue 2.1 million every 3 years. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that would be an option if we phase it to do all of these different pieces. And so a few years ago, we had suggested that once these different pieces drop off, that money should be utilized for facility, because that we don't have a funding mechanism. And once the facilities are addressed, then that can be then shifted to other capital needs within the village.
So basically, the issuance of this debt or reissuance of this debt has no impact on property taxes.
Correct.
What is the interest rate on this debt?
Depends on when you issue it. So the last time the village was rated, we were downgraded slightly from our AAA status, and it was due to
Pension
what our
obligations.
pension obligations were. So we're just below AAA. Is it AA plus? Which is, I mean, we will get a very good and competitive rate.
Okay, trustees?
I would say issue the debt, reissue the debt.
Okay.
The next item for discussion is the Parks and Rec capital plan does not have enough funding for large playground redesigns. Currently, the Parks and Rec Department will be publishing an RFP for certain services, one being a survey to commission community feedback on future park designs. The Parks and Rec Department has had significant revenue surpluses in the past 2 years, allowing them to pay back the Quincy Street Community Center loan at a much higher than anticipated rate. The repayment schedule provided in the capital improvement plan assumes that the capital fund will be fully reimbursed by 2027 instead of 2044 per the original resolution. While upcoming revenue projections are conservative, it is not anticipated that a large park redesign would be able to be fully funded until 2030 or later without additional funding. So there's a couple ways to help pay for these if the desire is to do complete park redesigns versus strictly equipment replacement. These would be the reserves held at IRMA, OSLAD park grants, additional contributions from recreation operations, which may require fee increases.
Well, I think the first thing is we always should go for grants, right? But, I mean, does anybody else think that we're putting the cart before the horse here since we're putting out the survey for recreation?
Yes.
Okay, I think we wait till we get that survey back.
Okay.
Okay, 4.
In the upcoming capital improvement plan, there's a total of $5,770,000 in public safety vehicle replacement costs, of which $4,060,000 are identified as heavy-duty vehicles. Under the current funding models, the village is not prepared for all of these upcoming costs without a dedicated funding source. I want to point out that the 2024 ambulance and 2024 rescue pumper are going to be paid for by ARPA funding. The village ordered a fire engine in late 2022 for $750,000, which it will not be received until 2024. If the village were to order the exact same engine today, the price has increased over $200,000 to about $950,000. I wanted to talk about funding mechanisms for these additional vehicles, but also wanted to gain some feedback on rebuilding the aerial fire truck. A rebuild would cost approximately $300,000 and could potentially extend the life of the vehicle for about 10 years. Director Buckley can talk more to that process if interested.
So obviously our ladder truck is a very large vehicle, utilized, to get to higher spaces. We've utilized it many times. It's an important piece of apparatus that we have. And yes, it is expensive. If we were to order a new one today, it would be anywhere from 1.5 to probably 1.7 million for a new one today. I know a town that just ordered one this week, and it was 1.5 million. It's a lot of money. We understand that. I have talked to our vendor. Our ladder truck is a Seagrave. It was purchased in 2001. I talked to him this week a little bit about actually refurbishing it. They would redo the ladder. They would fix a lot of the hydraulics, make sure that the vehicle is capable of lasting at least another 10 years and possibly more. Our ladder truck is in pretty good shape. He did give a price tag of anywhere between $300,000, depending on what we do, anywhere between $300,000 to about $450,000. I think we're going to be closer to that $300,000 mark if we did decide to do that. But it definitely would extend the life of this vehicle, as I said, for another 10 years. I think it is, at this point, a better option than purchasing a new vehicle for a lot of money.
Any questions?
Gotta fix it, gotta fix it.
Okay. I do have one question.
Yes.
How long does it take to fix it?
That all depends. Once it gets up there and they start pulling it apart, they redo the whole ladder, and that's probably the most important part of that vehicle. It is a 100-foot ladder, so that does take a little bit of time, and they say when the ladder comes out of there, it's like brand new.
What do we do in the meantime?
We would rely on mutual aid when it was out of service, but as he said, if we did decide to do this, it probably wouldn't be till around this time next year.
Okay.
They are so backlogged in doing these because of cost. The exact same reason why we're looking to do it if we did decide to do this. So he did, I asked him to pencil our name on the list.
Yes.
Just to keep it on there because we don't want to lose our spot. And they've been very forthcoming in saying that they would definitely like to help us get this done if it's something we're looking to do.
And I was going to suggest if we could get on that list quickly, because I don't want to have to wait either.
This vehicle was not scheduled for replacement until 2027 for the aerial truck.
Okay. Okay, so let's go with the rehab on the truck. And then we have to figure out how to fund a second pumper and an ambulance. And we have four options: reserves held at IRMA, general obligation tax debt, increased tax rate, or cannabis revenue.
So with the opening of the dispensary in upcoming months, we will start to receive cannabis revenue. So far, we have not, we don't have any experience with how much revenue this will actually bring in at this location. We've received estimates from the dispensary, but we could, if the board elected to, they could create a policy earmarking that for future capital improvements and specify public safety vehicles if they want it.
I really hate to speculate on that. I mean, it's so unknown.
It is unknown, but at least it's a funding mechanism.
I understand that, but I can't make any estimates on that at all. But yes, I would want those funds to be used for this.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
I'm not sure whether I would want those funds to be used for this. It was my understanding that the dispensary, because it's part of the business district, those funds would go to be improving, the business district and the
1% would still go for
entryways
that.
and things like that, so.
1% would still go for the business district.
1%.
It's restricted that it has to stay in that
Okay.
district, so that would still happen.
There's also a 1% local sales tax, which is designated for street improvements, but there's a 3% tax for cannabis sales, which is not restricted.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
But perhaps in the future, we could talk about earmarks, just plan for what we'll use the funding for. Just once we start getting an idea of what maybe the annual income will be, so we're not just gonna have a big pot of money.
And we won't
No pun
start
intended.
seeing that revenue until, because there's always a lag, so they're targeting September opening, and so there's usually approximately a 3-month lag.
So this is 2025, we need to start considering this larger pumper. By then, we'll have good data on what kind of revenue is coming in from the cannabis sales.
Correct, but what would you like that revenue in the upcoming year and a half to be earmarked for a specific purpose? So it doesn't just go into general fund operations. I've started.
It's something
like
we
that.
need to talk about, maybe not today.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I'd say the expense, it's a priority, but we might feel very differently in X number of months. We won't know what the revenues are.
Okay.
So a possibility, yes.
Okay.
But I don't want to have an obligation.
Pollock.
I tend to think the same way as Trustee Gallegos on this, that, yeah, I mean, all these options are there, and it's good that we're beginning discussion on it, but I don't think we know enough to say this is definitely what we want to do.
So I think we earmark that, and we see how the revenues play out over the next 6 months as it opens.
The next item, the parking lot fund is an enterprise fund, which is exclusively funded by user fees and no property tax revenues. If I can direct you to the parking lot page in your tables, it's the last page. Starting in 2024, this fund is estimated to be at a deficit. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the fundamental makeup of the parking lot fund. I also included in your packet a map of the parking lots. Currently, all parking lots are included in the parking lot fund. I wanted to discuss if the board wanted to keep that makeup status quo or remove the village lots so that it is revenue-producing lots only are in that fund. So the user fees collected by the meters and the quarterly parking would just be on lots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8. Another option would be the revenue-producing lots and the community use lots, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 8. So that includes the business parking and the green lot on the north side of the tracks.
Which 8 we already have a grant for.
Correct.
I think it makes sense that if I mean, the whole idea of an enterprise fund is the monies that are derived from the usage should be used for those particular funds. So if you have a parking lot, like the staff parking lot, that is not generating revenue, it doesn't seems counterproductive that those funds should be paid for by the general fund. That's kind of my knee-jerk thought, but anybody else? Yes, Mr. Pollack.
Could you repeat the question you're asking us again? I was scrambling around looking for your map and was distracted.
It's okay. For the parking lot fund, so the user fees for quarterly parking and the metered parking, what lots should those be funding? Should it be currently they are funding all lots in the village? Should it just be the lots where that revenue is deprived from? Or should it be, we can keep it status quo, which is all the lots, but to effectively fund all the upcoming improvements, we would definitely have to adjust rates drastically for the parking lot fund. So it could just be revenue producing lots only or revenue producing and community lots.
Okay, so I would rather that we have just all lots in general, because we are going to have a change in, what lots are going to have more wear and tear than other ones. So I don't want to be locked into a B, and C type of thing. It's going to be an as-needed basis.
Okay,
Do we-
go ahead.
Do we have any idea of which lots are in need of more improvement?
Yes.
Some sort of priority?
So we have earmarked that in the capital improvement plan. So we have, we have estimated the Lot 8, for which we've gotten an MWRD funding partnership for in 2024. The police department lot is also in severe need. Currently, we have that slated in 2025. And currently, the revenues produced in the parking lot fund are not going to be enough to address that Lot 5 in 2025.
Without drastically.
Correct.
But we still are at a cap for what we can charge too, correct? For some of those spaces.
For the commuter spots, there is a cap by BNSF When we did the BNSF agreement earlier this year, the board had adopted the next 5 years of increases. BNSF gave us approval to go to the maximum of that, so we didn't have to do contract amendments every single year. So the board could increase to the max of that rate currently, or they could also adjust 24-hour parking. That does not require BNSF approval.
Okay, remembering 24-hour parking is generally used by our apartment dwellers. Okay. But my thought process is, you know, you have a public works building that has a parking lot. You have a recreation department that has a parking lot. They're not in the parking lot fund. So why would the police department be in the parking lot fund, as well as staff parking over here be in the parking lot fund? It just seems like a disconnect. It seems like the way enterprise funds should be is the monies that are generated from those funds should be used to maintain those items. I mean, we've said that over and over again. So there are 2 parking lots that don't generate any income.
There's more than 2.
Well,
You have your business parking too, in the central business district. So you have the business parking along the rail line for business employees, and then you have lot 6 and 7 too, and then the green parking lot. So you have the one parking lot next to Riverside Bank. You have the other one that's in between the outdoor seating for Choo Choo and the post office, and then you have the green parking lot too. Sorry.
that's okay. I still
Well,
sticking with it, but go ahead, Doug.
I tend to agree with President Ballerin that it's an enterprise fund, and the money that comes, the revenue needs to maintain the facility. And if it's short, or if there's left over, then we can look to use it elsewhere. But that seems like the first step.
I mean, the only question is, is parking lot, the 2 business district parking lots, should those be included in the parking lot fund? Because those could be generated, those could be revenue generated. We've decided to make those business parking. And by having business parking, we get business, and businesses then obviously pay into the tax too. So that's kind of convoluted, but.
Well, I'm confused, because you were talking about parking lot number 5 not being part of the enterprise fund. Would you want that to be sourced from somewhere else?
Which one's 5?
It's the
Police.
Yes, I think they should be forced from the general fund. Because it's used by only us.
But right now, we do have enough, well, we're looking at a substantial amount from enterprise to fund that for 2025, is that right?
Correct.
And we're just be short of it, and we're going to need it from somewhere else, which I would be open to having it from general if we could.
After the parking lot 8 improvement in 2024, the fund balance will be almost depleted in the parking lot fund. So the $700,000 for parking lot 5, the police parking lot in 2025, is not funded at this point.
And even if we moved Lot 5 and Lot 9, which is for village staff, if we moved those 2 to the general fund, we still wouldn't have money to fund them, even if they're in the general fund.
There are other options that we could look at in the general fund, such as our IRMA reserves, the facility improvement, debt issuance, and prioritization of projects within the general capital fund.
Yeah.
It does seem like the police parking lot would dovetail with the improvement, $2.1 million improvement, when we do the improvements to that building, or as we start doing that, it's going to incorporate the parking lot.
Yeah, and I don't want to delay the lot number 5 that we need to get done. I mean, that was a tough decision we had to make a couple of years ago, and, it's just going to continue to deteriorate. So I don't want to put that at jeopardy to delay it any longer than it has to be. So if we can use general funds for that,
So I'm hearing
Let's get it done.
consensus to present a code change to remove governmental lots from the parking lot fund? Yes.
yes,
5 and 9.
Okay.
Okay.
What about the community lots? The business parking on the north side of the tracks and the other lots in the central business district? Or we can delay that conversation for a future year. I just want the board to start thinking about that.
it's a lot.
They're public lots. Unlike 5 and 9, so I would be inclined right now to include them for the fund.
In the parking lot fund?
I would agree with that. Mr. Powell?
I think that's fine. I would like to think about is if there's other revenue that can be derived from those parking lots somehow, but that's a discussion for another day. But I think there's some logic to including them with the commuter lots.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Have you received all the input you needed tonight?
I have couple more questions.
A couple more.
Number 6, hopefully this one will be easy. The parking lot has been offered a 50% funding partnership with MWRD to improve parking lot 8. This will result in a deficit fund balance in the parking lot in 2024. Staff recommends accepting the partnership, improving the lot, and having the general fund loan the parking lot fund that balance until it is collected.
Parking lot 6 is Riverside Bank parking lot?
Parking lot 8.
8 is the one behind Metal Mites, goes all the way along the railroad tracks.
And how much are they willing to contribute to that?
50%.
What's the dollar amount?
Approximately 221,000.
Yeah, so we take, by not doing it, we lose two.
I don't want to lose that 200,000, yeah.
exactly.
But I would be fine with that.
Okay. We're back to the electrical improvements at the train station. This was not rolled over into 2024 because we weren't able to accomplish the original scope of the project with the conduit being in the walls. Is this a project that the board would like added back into the plan?
And the need is primarily for special events, correct?
And rentals.
Rentals. And have we found that it's
Cost.
been detrimental to the rentals, or it has caused a, I mean, has it been a burden to rent because of the electricity?
I see it, sorry.
I'm not sure the feedback on the rentals at the train station.
I see it as a safety issue in part, because we've hosted juniors events there, and unless you tape down every inch of those yards and yards of electrical cords that you're taking from the east to the west, trip hazards everywhere. So it is a matter of convenience, but also a matter of safety.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. It's more of a safety issue than anything because of the extension cords and everything. Have we talked to an electrical contractor about all possible options, or?
Those were the 2 proposed.
By an electrical contractor, or?
Yeah, two electricians that have their own business.
There's no,
Exterior, interior.
I should know this, but I don't. You can't put outlets in the floor?
No, because if something gets spilled, then
Right.
it goes into the ground.
Yeah, it's a building
Theoretically,
code.
but I wouldn't suggest it.
Yeah, well, I just wondered, I should rephrase that question. Does the building code allow outlets in the floor? I know it's done,
refer to
but
the
it may not be
building
ideal.
department.
But
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thought, because I have seen in, office buildings where a pipe comes up and then there's an outlet.
And there is one in that back cage as well. on the floor.
So that, I mean, that does make sense. That seems like that could be an option.
It's a simple,
We can investigate it.
Yeah, it's just look at the building
I assure you
code.
that $15,000, it will far exceed that if we're starting to cut holes in that floor and, you know, but we'll definitely look at it.
I just want to remind the board how much money we've spent in the train station over the years between the terrazzo being redone, between the walls, the masonry, so the plaster that was redone, all the woodwork. When Solamici was in there, we had to spend a lot of money to basically restore it, and Historical Commission's done a lot of great work in there too. So that's the only thing I want to caution the board on. If we are going to go down this path, my recommendation that if we're doing this so that people can host events more, then we should adjust the fee, because we're never going to recover the amount of money that we put into it. So as long as the board has an awareness of that, but I just, being part of all those projects along the way and seeing how the interior was transformed, I'm just concerned of what it may look like once the work is actually done. And so that was the reason why I said, let's take it out and let's let the board have the discussion.
Mr. Pollak?
What do we do when there's a private event, and I've been to private events there and I've seen the tape on the floor? Do we just let the event organizer figure out how to run their cords and how to make it safe, or do we supervise that? Or is there equipment we could buy and have on hand that could be installed that's a little safer and more attractive than the tape over the extension cord?
So they're responsible for it because it's their event. And so when we have our events, there are certain things that Parks and Rec will do to make sure that there's enough capacity at the train station. And Director Melchiotti can kind of speak to that a little bit more about the panel that's bought in and things of that sort. But, you know, when people set up for whatever the event is, there's an awareness of the limitations of there, and so they plan accordingly, I think, most of the time. So.
I guess to sum it up, you know, if we continue, if it's too cost effective or it affects the historic status in any way, then sure, we just do like we've done and not spend a whole lot of money. But maybe at the very least we provide some guidelines to event organizers as to here's the right way to do this. But also we explore every single option that's possible. I mean, are there better extension cords or better, you know, portable equipment that can be used that's safer and, you know, doesn't require taping on the floor? I don't know, but.
Or what we could do as an alternative, given that we use certain vendors when we need more capacity, is providing them, saying, look, your event is going to require more power, and so here is the village-approved vendor, and maybe we work with that vendor to establish certain rates for them, and so then it's kind of, okay, you're having this event, you need to contact this vendor to make sure that you have the capacity that you need to have a successful event, maybe.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Because then it's not on the village, you know, and also from a liability standpoint, I don't necessarily want to be handing them equipment and stuff, because if something fails, then it was potentially our equipment too.
I think that makes a lot of sense. If you want to rent the cabin, you go ahead, I'm sorry.
I thought everybody wanted to say something. I just want to comment that, like, I would like us to explore options, but at the end of the day, if it's inside and conduit and it just isn't going to look good in this beautifully refurbished building, I would not be for it. I just want us to consider options.
I'm just in general agreement that we should, you know, continue to investigate the possibility of the floor access for the outlets while we are continuing essentially business as usual. I love the idea of, you know, establishing relationship and reduced rates with village-approved vendors for this kind of thing. I think people who do conduct events and, you know, want to have them in our beautiful train station appreciate all the additional support that the village can provide, whether it's in planning like that or with templates or guidance or whatever. So as much as we can do to facilitate the availability of information for people who would rent the facility, the better.
Okay.
I'd like to see the electrical outfits to be modernized. I'd like to see it modernized for sure, but I also understand Village Manager Francis's point about return on investment with all of the resources we've already put into the train station. I am interested in knowing how many events we do a year and what kind of revenue we make from that space.
I don't have that information tonight, but we can definitely pull that and provide that at a later meeting.
Thanks.
I think that would be helpful.
I mean, this is very cursory, and I'm looking at clerk, so.
I'm looking it up now.
I think on average, maybe two, like for a really busy month, maybe 3 events a month. So we don't have, I mean, there is the request. The scout cabin is probably a little bit more heavily rented than the train station, just because of kind of the different challenges of the configuration and things of that sort. Unless it's a very large event and they want access to the commuter lot and they want to do things outside and maybe close down the street, then it affords that flexibility too.
We had 9 train station rentals last year, and so far this year, we've had 5 at least scheduled. A couple haven't happened yet.
And what kind of revenue does that bring in?
I don't know off of my list here, but you're looking at a few $100s each from each rental. Some go for a couple hours, some go for 6 hours, so it varies. I'd have to look at that a little bit more closely.
With the return on the investment, I think
No ROI.
your idea
100 years.
of the proper vendor coming in and taking care of
Joe,
things.
someone did bring up about spilling on the floor outlets. Could we have like GFI outlets put in, the kind that you would have in your bathroom and
Yeah,
and
definitely.
kitchen?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that's going to be something to look at.
I didn't hear what you said, I'm sorry.
GFI outlets.
GFCIs,
Okay, yeah.
protected outlets, just in case something were to occur.
And Doug has one more question.
And, you know, we're not the only historic building that has events. There's got to be someone out there that can say, here's how we do it safely. Because, I mean, we've got to look at making sure it's done safely. That's right. That's our number one thing here. And just letting, you know, extension cords running everywhere. Maybe it's being done safe. I'm not assuming it's not, but I want to be sure that whatever's being done is safe.
What's behind those walls? Is it pipe or is it BX?
What's in the walls?
Yeah.
It's maybe pipe if we're lucky.
Okay.
It could,
Romex.
it's probably not cloth wrapped anymore, but it's probably BX if I had to guess,
Okay.
without opening up the boxes.
And we don't know what gauge those are? If they're 10 gauge? Okay.
Might be 14, 12. Unknown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we keep exploring the electrical issue.
So I'm hearing not add it back into the 2024 plan, but look into additional options for future capital plans.
Yeah.
Okay. And your last one?
My last one, is there any projects that the board would like added to the list that are not already in the 10-year capital plan? Okay.
One thing that,
Got nothing.
well, I don't know if this fits in with what we're talking about, but one thing that consistently comes up in the community is complaints about the tennis courts. I know that we can talk about that after we get the survey results and the strategic plan. But it has been in the capital plan in the past. I notice it's not there anymore. Is
Brian?
it because we had done some work on it?
Yeah, Ron, do you want to speak to the tennis courts?
They are in there, and they're assessed every year. Sometimes it's just repair. If you look down, like there's Blake Court resurfacing scheduled for 2025, Indian Gardens resurfacing also in 2025.
Yeah.
But again, those are assessed. We have made improvements thanks to the Public Works Department, especially at Indian Gardens. We had a lot of overgrowth, a lot of debris on the fields. They were able to kind of cut a path around that, so that's going to increase the life of the surface. Blythe Park, while we don't use it a lot, the school does, so that gets a lot of use. We're looking at that. Harrington Park, there's some trees very close to that, which could cause the surface to buckle. So right now, all we've noticed are surface cracks, and we're looking into if we can just get those sealed as opposed to redoing the entire thing. But we do have resurfacing in future budgets.
And I'll say this because Trustee Clarity's not here. The pickleball courts are getting used quite a bit. I drove by Harrington and they were booked up, so I'm sure that the other ones are being used just as equally.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No other questions, but one other thing that I wanted to add is, in addition to this capital plan, was a listing of C4 projects that are included in upcoming plans, or in upcoming years and current years.
Okay. Thank you. That moves us on to trustee reports and C4. Are there any trustee reports or C4 this evening? Yes.
I just wanted to mention, I wanted to alert the community of an opportunity to support the Riverside Farmers Market. Our market is thoughtfully curated each week to bring only handcrafted, locally grown, and seasonal offerings to Riverside and neighboring communities. We have a very unique market. I'm not sure that people realize that. Not every market can claim those features. So when you have a minute, please would you vote for Riverside Farmers Market to win the 15th Annual America's Farmers Market Celebration Best Farmers Market Award. Our market is currently in second place in the Midwest region, and the winner will receive a $15,000 grant for market improvements. You can find a link to vote you can find a link to the contest to vote on the village website under Trends. So please vote. It would be wonderful to be able to call our market the #1 farmers market in the region.
Could we do an e-flash on that?
It's posted on social media.
We did an e-flash.
Yes.
Okay.
So we can do another one as it gets closer. I
Yeah.
know the deadline is a couple of weeks out, so.
Yeah, I think we do a nice push on both social media and e-flash and see if we can get over the hump.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans.
Just one more. As Manager Francis said, we are going to have a concert tomorrow night at Big Ballpark. The Redmonds will be performing. One of our residents has a food truck, and as residents have asked, they wanted to have food available. We're going to try that.
Right.
But I want to remind everyone that these are our parks, these are your parks, so please keep them clean, please leave no trace behind, so we can have this type of amenity available in the future.
Thank you. Anything from C4?
Burgers, brats, and Polish sausage, people were asking.
I gave a detailed report last time around, but I will say that the Riverside C4 team is meeting at 7 p.m. at the Riverside Public Library next Thursday. We always meet the last Thursday of every month, and the public is welcome to attend and come and, weigh in on things and get involved. So we look forward to seeing you.
Thank you.
Always a very lively conversation.
We do
Just
have
wanna add
lively
that
conversations.
People enjoy coming to the meetings and really get into it.
Maybe bring that farmer's market sheet.
Hey, good idea.
to the meeting.
Absolutely. No, we love our farmers market.
Good. We do not have a need for executive session this evening, so I'm going to ask for a motion and a second for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Gallego, second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Mateo. Clerk Soul, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Gallegos?
Aye.
Trustee Mateo?
Aye.
Trustee Evans?
Aye.
Trustee Pollock?
Aye.
Trustee Marshazga?
Aye.
Motion carries, meeting adjourned. Thank you.